everyone, welcome to EduTap and welcome to today's Finance 360-degree session. In today's session, we are going to discuss two very important press releases of the Reserve Bank of India. The first one is regarding the Financial Literacy Week that has been announced by the Reserve Bank of India. Okay, and this is the 10th Financial Literacy Week that the RBI has announced. So we will discuss the important points related to this Financial Literacy Week. Now, the more important agenda in today's session is the Handbook on the Regulations at a Glance. So, the Reserve Bank of India has released this wonderful handbook that is going to help you a lot in your examination. Okay, so we will discuss that what is this handbook, why it is so important. It is released in the recommendation of the RRA. So, what is this RRA? That is also very important to understand. So, all of this we are going to discuss in today's session. Okay, but before starting with the session, do subscribe to the YouTube channel of EduTap so that you continue getting these relevant videos, and do join our Telegram channel so that you can get the PDF of the session, and the link for the Telegram channel is provided in the description box below. So the RBI has released the Handbook on the Regulations at a Glance. So it is the Department of Regulation of the Reserve Bank of India that has released this handbook, and this is a very wonderful handbook that the RBI has released. Now this handbook is released by the RBI on the recommendation of the RRA. So what is this RRA? So RRA is the Regulations Review Authority. Okay, so we will discuss about the handbook, but before that, let's discuss about the Regulations Review Authority. So the RBI had set up the Regulations Review Authority initially for a period of only 1 year from April 1, 1999. Okay, now this Regulations Review Authority, that was the RRA, that was established in April 1999. This was established to review the regulations of the Reserve Bank of India for the regulated entities, for the banks, NBFCs and such. And the RRA also had to review the circulars, reporting system of the Reserve Bank of India, okay, based on the feedback from the public, banks and financial institutions. So the recommendations of the Regulations Review Authority enabled the RBI to streamline and increase the effectiveness of several procedures, regulations of the RBI. Okay? So actually, the Regulations Review Authority, it was established to review the regulations that are imposed by the RBI, to review the circulars imposed by the RBI. Okay, so that with the review that is done by the RRA, the RBI can understand that what are the problems, how the circulars can be made more easier to understand, how the regulations can be made more easier to comply with. Okay, so the with the recommendations given by the RRA, the first RRA, it enabled the streamlining and increasing the effectiveness of several procedures of the RBI, simplifying regulatory regulations of the RBI, and paved the way for issuance of master circular and reduced reporting burden on the regulated entities. So you can understand that the RRA, it was a very important authority set up by the Reserve Bank of India, because it actually advised the RBI to smoothen the processes, to make the processes and the regulations more effective, okay, and reduce the burden of compliance on the regulated entities. Now considering, now this was established for a 1 year period in 1999. So from the 2000 to 2020, for the 2 decades, okay, there was no Regulations Review Authority that was made. So the RBI recognized this, that considering the development that is happening in the regulatory functions of the RBI, there are more entities that are under the regulation of the Reserve Bank of India. The banks are expanding, the NBFCs are expanding, okay. So considering the developments that is happening in the regulatory function of the Reserve Bank over the past 2 decades, over the past 20 years we can say, and the evolution that has happened of the regulatory parameter, the parameter or the area for regulation for the RBI increased, because there was the growth of the fintech that happened. The fintech companies started growing, okay. So it was proposed to undertake, now the RBI proposed to undertake a similar review of the Reserve Bank's regulations and compliance procedures with a view of streamlining, rationalizing the regulations, the compliances, and making them more effective. So RBI said that we again need a Regulations Review Authority that can again review the regulations and the circulars and the compliances issued by the Reserve Bank of India, so that the RBI can understand that what are the problems, if there are any problems, or if there are any extra burden that are there on the regulated entities, okay. So RBI said that, okay, because 20 years have passed and we have released many of the new guidelines, we have released many of the new circulars, so there is the requirement for the Regulations Review Authority again to review the regulations and the circulars and such. So the RRA 2.0, this was set up for a period of 1 year starting from May 1, 2021. So RRA 2.0, this was assisted. So RRA 2.0, this was assisted by a RRA secretariat, and there was also the advisory councils and such. So RRA 2.0 was assisted by the RRA secretariat, which was set up under the Department of Regulation. Okay, and the RRA 2.0, so Shri M. Ragheshwar Rao, Deputy Governor, was appointed as the Regulations Review Authority. Under this Regulations Review Authority, under the Shri M. Rajeshwar Rao, there was the RRA Secretariat, and there was also the Advisory Council and such. Okay, so this was the RRA 2.0 that was established in 2021. Now RRA 2.0, it focuses on streamlining the regulatory instructions, the regulatory compliances, the regulatory norms, reducing the compliance burden on the regulated entities by simplifying the procedures and reduce reporting requirements wherever possible. So you can understand that this RRA, it is very important from your examination perspective. It is very important from the structure of the RBI. Okay. Now, how this RRA is connected to this handbook? Why I said that the RRA gave the recommendation for this handbook? Okay. So the Reserve Bank had constituting the RRA 2.0 in 2021 to review the regulatory prescriptions, regulations and such with a view of simplification and ease of implementation. Now, based on the detailed deliberation that happened, the RRA 2.0 finalized its report on June 10, 2022. And one of the important recommendations of the RRA 2.0 report was that the Reserve Bank of India should focus on creating the regulatory handbook or handbooks containing the regulations applicable to a set of regulated entities or on particular subject may be explored by the regulatory departments. So this was the recommendation given by the RRA 2.0, that the RBI should focus on creating the regulatory handbook that will contain the regulations in a summarized form, that will contain the regulations that are applicable on the regulated entities in a very neat manner, so that the regulated entities through this handbook will be able to understand the different regulations in an easier manner. Okay, this would serve as a quick reference guide for the regulated entities. So this was the idea that was proposed by the RRA 2.0, and this was an important recommendation by the RRA 2.0 in its report. Now, accordingly, the Department of Regulation has compiled its regulatory instructions in an easily accessible handbook titled Regulations at a Glance. Okay, so you will see that I was so happy seeing this handbook because it is such a neat summary that the RBI has provided for different regulations, and you will see that how important and how easy to understand it is, or how easy to follow it is. Okay, so accordingly, the Department of Regulation has compiled its regulatory instructions in an easily accessible handbook titled Regulations at a Glance. Okay, this is providing a broad overview of the regulatory landscape, the regulations across multiple dimensions of activities and entities. Okay, so we will discuss that what are the topics that are discussed under this, how it is given, for whom it is given. So we will discuss that. But here this handbook, it is providing the information not in just the statements and paragraphs. It is actually providing the information in tabular summary of all major regulations that is issued by the Department of Regulation. And remember this, that the Department of Regulation, it issues the regulations for the NBFCs, for the banks, for the other regulated entities. So you can understand that the regulations have been summarized in this handbook in a very easy to understand manner in the tabular summary format. Okay, so all the major regulations have been provided in the tabular summary format in this handbook, that it has been organized in 6 chapters. Okay, so here you can see I have just brought the example. Again, I will not be able to go through the handbook because all the 77 pages of this handbook seems important. I was scrolling down this, and remember this, that if you have completed the static portion, of finance, I will suggest you that do go through the handbook. You do not have to cram the things, but do go through the handbook once. So, and remember that if a topic, let's say NBFCs, or let's say bank, the universal bank are coming in news or in finance current affairs, or let's say the urban cooperative banks, they are coming in like in the news or in the like in the sessions. or in the finance current affairs. So you should know that, okay, what was the net worth for the universal banks, for the small finance banks. So through this handbook, you can easily see the data. Okay, so once you have gone through the static, go through this handbook once. You do not have to cram, just go through it, just see that what this handbook is providing and what different things you have studied in static, you can like relate it with this handbook, as well as if there is any topic like Basel norms, it is in news. So you will see that Basel norms have been summarized in this handbook in a very easy to understand manner. Okay, similarly, if there is any like market risk is being discussed or the different risks are being discussed, so you can go through this handbook, and everything is provided in a very easy to understand manner. Okay, so chapter 1 is legislative framework. Okay, so relevant legislative framework, regulation of banks. So the banks are regulated under the RBI Act of 1934, the Banking Regulation Act of 1949, and such other regulations or such other acts. The regulation of NBFCs, the regulation of asset reconstruction company, and the regulation of the credit information companies, it happens under these acts. So you can understand that this is the legislative framework. So chapter 1 is providing the legislative framework for the regulation of different entities under the RBI. Then the licensing norms for the new institutions or the licensing norms for the different institutions has been provided. That, okay, for the universal banks, what should be the minimum paid up capital or net worth requirement? For the small finance bank, what is the minimum paid up capital or net worth requirement? Okay, what is the condition for the promoters or the promoter groups? How many years of experience they require, and such and such. So everything has been summarized in a very tabular and a very neat manner, I will say. Okay, similarly, the governance and ownership framework. So governance structure, so the Banking Regulation Act prescribes certain qualification for directors of banking company. So there is the governance framework that has been provided and the ownership framework that has been provided. I have just brought a few snippets, but it has been provided for the banks, for NBFCs, and for the other entities also. Okay. Similarly, the licensing norms have been provided for the banks, the NBFCs, and such. Okay. Now these are the 6 chapters that are given in the handbook. And again, I'm telling you that do not worry that, okay, I will have to cram all of this. No. Let's say that Universal Bank is in news and you want to know its net worth. So you can directly see it. If the small finance bank is in news, you want to see the net worth, you can directly see it. If the fit and proper criteria is being discussed in the news, so here you can see that it is provided in a summary format. Okay. So if you have completed your static portion, then this handbook can help like correlate the static with the data points. Okay. Now, these are the 6 chapters: legislative framework, where the acts have been provided and where the legislative framework for the regulation of different regulated entities have been mentioned. Licensing of new institutions. So if there are banks, NBFCs, what are the licensing norms? What are the norms that have been provided here? Governance and ownership framework has been given in chapter 3. Prudential norms and capital regulations has been given in chapter 4, where the Basel norms have been discussed. Okay, and the Basel norms have been like divided, like the previous or the older Basel norms and the new one, as well as there are the different kind of risk, market risk, forex risks. All of this has been defined that, okay, what is market risk, what is forex risk. Okay, so that is also present here. The conduct related regulations have been given in a summarized form for the regulated entities, and resolution of regulated entities if there is amalgamation or merger that is happening. So what is the resolution that is also provided, and all of this is given in the tabular format. Okay, so this is it. Like I'm not going to discuss all the data points, because then I will have to discuss the 77 pages of this handbook, which I don't think is relevant here. Just try to understand that this handbook is released on the recommendation of RRA 2.0. This RRA 2.0, when was it formed? Who was the head, or who was the RRA? Was the like Sri Rageshwar Rao was appointed as the RRA. So these are some of the things that you need to remember. How many chapters are in this handbook, and this handbook is released by who, which department? So Department of Regulation of RBI. Okay, now do go through the handbook. Let's say you want to find any data point, you want to understand better, or you want to summarize the Basel norms. So actually in this handbook the summary is already provided. Okay, so this is a very good handbook for adding to your preparation, I will say. Okay, now Coming to the second topic for today, that is RBI launches Financial Literacy Week 2025. So RBI has been conducting the Financial Literacy Week every year since 2016 to promote the financial literacy among the people. Okay, so financial literacy is promoted through this Financial Literacy Week so that the people become more financially literate. They are aware about the financial structure and the financial component of our country, the financial system of our country. They are aware about the banking system. They are aware about the uh, different services being provided by the banks and such. Okay, so Governor Shri Sanjay Malhotra launched the 10th edition of the Financial Literacy Week 2025. So this is the 10th edition of the Financial Literacy Week that has been launched. Now the theme for the current year is financial literacy, women's prosperity, Vittiya Samajhdari, financial literacy, so Vittiya Samajhdari, Samridh Nari. Okay, so Vittiya Samajhdari, Samridh Nari, this is the theme of the current year, with emphasis is given on the financial planning for the women, the saving and risk management, and the availing credit for growth. Because see, women slowly and slowly, the women, they are starting to open their own businesses, right? They are opening their lehenga business, they are opening their boutiques, they are opening their different businesses, they are opening. So here the focus is given to the women, that we have to increase the financial literacy among the women so that they can do the financial planning, they can do the saving and risk management for their business, for their small businesses that they are opening, and they can avail the credit for the growth. Okay, so the FLW 2025 will be observed between February 24 and 28, 2025. So the Financial Literacy Week has already been conducted in February last week. The launch ceremony was attended by the top management and regional heads of the Reserve Bank, NABARD, and the heads of select commercial banks. So speaking at the launch of the Financial Literacy Week, the Governor, Shri Sanjay Malhotra, underlined the need for empowering the women to enhance their participation in driving inclusive and sustained economic growth. So the focus of this Financial Literacy Week is on the women. That means the Financial Literacy Week is focusing on increasing the financial literacy for the women so that there is more participation from the women in the growth of the country and in the financial system of the country. Okay, so the focus is to increase the participation from the women in the inclusive development of the financial system and in the sustained economic growth of our country. Okay, he urged the banks, the governor of the RBI urged the banks to use all available channels to continue to promote the financial literacy, particularly among the women, because women are the focus in this Financial Literacy Week. Okay, so as part of the FLW 2025, the RBI will undertake media campaigns on the theme. So there will be multiple campaigns, awareness programs that will be run by the RBI, and RBI has said that not only the RBI but the bank should also be undertaking such multimedia campaigns and such awareness campaigns. So banks too have been advised to give out information and create awareness among their customers. Okay, so this is regarding the Financial Literacy Week that is conducted every year since 2016. This is the 10th Financial Literacy Week, and the theme of the Financial Literacy Week is financial literacy, women's prosperity. Okay, so this is the idea. So if you go to edutap.in, you can go to EduTap's website, and here in the free material you can go to the blog section, and in the blogs you can get the free information about any of the examination that you are preparing for. Let's say you are preparing for the NABARD Grade A, or let's say you are preparing for the RBI Grade A, RBI Grade B. So you can get the information about the syllabus, about the examination, about the pattern and such. And if you want to know about the strategy for the examination for the different components, so the strategy is also provided in this blog format, and the success stories, so success stories are provided in the written form in the blog format, so that you can know about the success story and you can know about the strategy that the toppers adopted. Okay, as well as if you go back to the main page, in the courses section you can see the courses for the different examination. Let's say you want to see the courses for RBI. So for the phase 1 and phase 2 for the interview, or that is, there is gold course, there is silver course, there is test series also, what all you will be provided, what sessions you will be getting, what notes you will be getting, and who all will be teaching, is all that is written here. So if you want to access the course of EduTap, so do read the things that are written here. Do read about the course first before availing it, before getting it, right? So this is the first question. I hope you will be easily able to answer this question. So which of the following statements is incorrect regarding the regulations at a glance handbook? So that you have to tell. So I hope you will be able to answer this question. And this is the second question. So do try to answer this question, that which of the following statements is correct regarding the Financial Literacy Week 2025 launched by the Reserve Bank of India. So try to answer this. Okay. So this is it for today. Thank you very much for joining the session. Do give me the right answer of the homework question. And if there is any confusion, do ask me out. Okay. Thank you everyone. Thank you for joining.